Welcome to this video. How are you? Hoping you are exceptionally well on this beautiful day, wherever you may be, whether it's dark or gloomy, whether the sun is shining, whether it's snowing, whether it's raining, wherever you may be. Embrace the fullness, embrace the contrast of life, of seasons. You know, I was speaking to a dear friend of mine a few months ago with respect to the seasons. And she made a very interesting point. There are some that perpetually chase the sun, they pursue the sun, and you find this in varied generations across the world that are living in subtropical regions, for example, and just continually just chasing that sun. And is that a reflection of their own inner polarization? Something to think about, something to consider to some extent, at least a little bit anyway. But wherever you may be in the world, hoping you are embracing fully the wonder of the day. Morning, Denise, how are we? Hoping everybody's really, really well. Why don't we throw an emoticon, whatever it is, little emotional icons in the comment box. Let me know how you're feeling today. Let me know how you're resonating today. It's a really interesting topic around attraction, around desire, around wanting, and what is it that we see in our partners or potential partners that we don't see in others, and how can coming from a place of heart help clarify our lives? I find that very interesting point. Good morning, Tina. Good morning, Nikki. Thank you for being here. So we're looking at attraction. What is it that attracts us to some people and doesn't attract us to other people? And how do we reconcile that? How do we reconcile this intellectual mind of wanting to do something or wanting to be somewhere, wanting to be present, yet the body's saying no? What does that mean? What are we tapping into? What state of consciousness or intellect are we tapping into when we come from this place, when we begin to observe our inner selves in relation to relationships, in relation to attracting certain people in our lives? What is that resonance, that harmonic frequency, that vibration, that energy, this is almost intangible, immaterial thing, feeling, state that we immerse ourselves in that allows us to experience people in different ways? What is that? How does that occur? Why does that occur? Well, the reasons are multiple and in multitudes. I mean, somewhere in our lives we've interpreted a particular way a person looks, a particular way a person behaves, a particular way a person expresses as something safe. Christina, good morning. As something that we can identify with, that we can relate to, that we resonate with. So there's a safety there. We're driven primarily by these biological impulses to remain safe. We're driven primarily with these biological impulses to be secure in our lives, to be surrounded by familiarity. So somewhere during our developmental years, we've looked at life and we've looked at people and we've identified for various reasons what's safe and what isn't. And in that process, we've allowed ourselves to relate deeper to certain people and not as deep to others, not as attracted or attractive to others. And again, I was having a beautiful conversation with a beautiful dear friend, and this was really interesting because she asked me a question about. Let me just think of the question for a moment. How it was. It was something like, what's most important to you when you have a relationship with someone else? What is most important to you in that relationship? What matters most? So that were the fairly accurate, articulate words there. What matters most? So I started really thinking about that, and I've been thinking about, obviously, those that follow me here on social media and my website and so forth, and you have an idea of the work that I do, or rather the realms that I play in and express in, which is our relationships. I've been thinking about this very deeply with respect to, what is most important to us in relationship. And, most of us will list off a myriad of qualities. They have to be honest, they have to be transparent, they have to be trustworthy, they have to be kind, they have to be caring, they have to be compassionate. And we go through these qualities. We can go from anywhere from 10 to 100 to 1,000 different qualities with respect to what we want and what our preferences are when we're in either intimate relationship, platonic relationship, familial relationship, any form of shared intimacy, whatever that looks like, whether it's romantic or other. But what we're really doing, let me explain to you what we're really doing. Photo bomb or video bomber. Pardon the background noise. What we're really getting at is we want people that are like us. We want people in our lives that resemble who we are, that are similar to who we are. Yelena, how are you, my dear? We want people in our lives that are similar to who we are, because this keeps us safe. This makes us think that we're secure, that we are safe in our being, in our movement. We can predict with greater accuracy the interaction that will take place. And again, this keeps us safe. Now, this is somewhat a simplistic biological view of the way we connect to each other and relate, but it's so much more than that. It's so much more layered than that. It's so much more complex than that. It's so much more beautiful than that. Because somewhere over multiple periods of time, over multiple occasions, we've looked at life, we've assessed life, we've assessed people in our surroundings, and we've either repelled against that type of person. It could be a quality, it could be a quirk, it could be a characteristic, an expression, or we've, rather than repelled, we've attracted ourselves to that. So unconsciously, our bodies, our nervous systems, our brains will scan our environment, especially when there are many people in that environment, and begin to understand what is safe and what is not. What resonates with me, with what I like and what doesn't. Now, here's the interesting thing. This is where I said it's complex and layered. So stay with me here. Please stay with me. Is that what integrates and layers into this are not only our preferences, but the shadow element of self. Hey, Gav, how are you? Yes, on the way back home to Perth, brother. I'm just reflecting on our time together the last couple of weeks, and you are a magnificent human being, Gavin. I'm sending you much love, my brother, much love. Now, I got caught in the bromance there for a moment, but let me go back to what I was saying. And what I was saying was somewhere in ourselves, we are also attracting people and repelling people. This is the tricky part, right? And this is where clarity of self and leading from the heart comes in, because we'll gain a greater acuity and accuracy for life. But what's really important here is that aspects of us are repelling and attracting shadow elements of self. So there's a fantastic author, and his name is it's a fantastic. I've got the book. The book is Keeping the Love You Find, I've forgotten the name. Anyway, it's Keeping the Love. It will come to me randomly. Keeping the Love You Find, and what this man says is that we will attract what we consciously and unconsciously received and did not receive from our primary caregivers in our intimate relationships. That's a very interesting point. And think about that, feel into that. So when we're moving through the world, when we're all these unconscious cues, all these unconscious elements of self are acting on our behalf to bring into our life precisely exactly what we need. Now, that might be pain, that might be sadness, it may be joy, it may be happiness. More than likely, it's a combination of all of that. So when we begin to lead from the heart in relationship, and this is very important, and stay with me here, please. When we begin to lead from the heart, the heart asks questions such as, who am I? What do I need? Where do I need to be in life? What is most important to me? Who do I wish to be in life? What type of person do I wish to attract? What lessons do I wish to learn? How do I wish to enrich my life? How do I wish to grow? How do I wish to expand my sense of belongingness, my sense of self? How do I wish to connect deeper to the fullness of who I am? How can I move through the world with greater efficacy, with greater mastery of self, with a greater appreciation for who I am? And how can I give more and receive in equanimity? How can I love deeply? How can I care? How can I be affectionate? These are the questions. These are the postures that the heart maintains. This is what the heart does. This is how the heart moves through the world. Now, the intellectual self, that's the self that requires aptitude, functionality in today's world. To know how to communicate per se, to know how to walk, to know how to navigate various environments, to understand business stuff, to drive a car, to have technical skills, whatever it may be. That's the intellectual self. And the intellectual self is very important, as is the heart self. We have a brain, we have a mind, and we have metacognition, and we have awareness and consciousness. We have animus, we're animated for a reason. We have bodies for a reason, or multiple reasons. So who we are is predicated upon the way we function between these two aspects of self, the intellectual self and the heart-based self. And they're one and the same, essentially, but they play a different role and have and hold a different intention. Now, what I was getting to earlier was when we lead from the heart, we are asking questions of clarity, pardon the background noise. We are requesting that we understand or know or embody a particular condition or state that is in alignment with the most important things to us. Our hierarchy of values, our purpose or purposes, the types of people we wish to spend our time with. And when we clarify who we are, when we move into a place of wholeness, when we move through the world with a sense of wholeness, with a sense of embodied fulfillment and meaning, and with a sense of greater gratitude for life, we begin to attract with clarity exactly what we need. So instead of experiencing perpetual pain, which are the same unhealthy lessons per se, over and over again, because we're not listening to the fullness of who we are, because we're polarizing ourselves. Remember what I said at the beginning? When we polarize our external world and our experiences, we're polarizing and fracturing aspects of ourselves. So we're not moving through the world in this embodied state of wholeness. And let me be clear on wholeness for a moment. We're never truly completely whole because we're ever growing. We're in a constant state of flux and adaptation. But we can have a consciousness or an awareness around growth and wholeness and what that means for us. So why is it, we go back to this original question, that we attract certain people in our lives and we don't attract others? Or that we are attracted to certain people, but we are not attracted to others? And again, it comes down to how well do we know ourselves? And can we ever truly know ourselves in fullness? Potentially not. And that's irrelevant, it doesn't matter. Because what's important is the journey. What's important is the journey that we partake in, the intention behind the journey, and the attention that we place on life as we move through life and as we experience variations in our being, variations in our emotional contrast, variations in our relationships, variations in the way we connect and understand each other and feel each other. And it begins again with this heart-based leadership, because when you come from a place of leading oneself, one's own sovereignty with the heart, you're asking quality, clear questions. You're coming from a place that is very empowered, like it's deeply, deeply empowered. And in this empowered place, in this empowered state, we're able to do more with life. We're able to realize exactly who we are, what we want, and what we wish to attract in our lives. Now, when we start moving through clarity, it doesn't mean we're going to bring people in our lives that are only 100%, well actually no, sorry, let me go back. We're always going to bring people in our lives that are 100% for us. We just may not always see or perceive that. We may not feel the value that we are experiencing or holding when we are interacting with certain people, albeit they are causing us harm or discomfort or challenge. Always when we're challenged, what happens? We grow, right? And the primary directive for all of humanity, for any sentient, animated being, is growth. We only need to look to our ecosystems and we see that it's all about growth. It's all about our ecological systems, our animal kingdom. It's all about growth in some capacity. So we go back to understanding, well, what does it mean to attract against certain people and not others? And what does that mean for us? When we begin to ask questions about who we are and about the why behind our attractions, Culling, good morning, good afternoon, I think where you are, maybe good evening. We begin to identify clearer what's important to us, and we're able to be of service actually to more people. We're able to be of service and give, and in giving we're receiving. Remember this. We have to understand this. Again, we're not polarizing our actions. We're not polarizing our expressions. In giving we're receiving. In receiving we're giving. We move with that openness of being, with that open-minded, open-hearted posture, and we grow profoundly. But if we're looking at identifying, okay, what type of people do I want to bring into my life? And we begin to label these people with certain qualities. We begin to attach qualities, emotional qualities, postures to these people, behavioral qualities. This becomes very interesting for us because, again, we go back to that when we really go deep into this. Let me give you an example. This is cool. So, many years ago, because this is a great exercise, but it's an exercise that I give in my in some of my courses, and it's called your perfect imperfect partner, or your imperfect perfect partner. And what it is, it's really just an exercise in gaining clarity on who you are as a human being. Now, whilst it's very imperative and it becomes important that we know what we're looking for in others, as I said earlier, essentially we're looking for duplicate versions of ourselves because that's safe, because it's familiar, because it's comfortable. But we also want to challenge ourselves a little bit, but we can only challenge ourselves authentically when we know ourselves authentically. So when we are clear on who we are, then we can challenge ourselves authentically and come from a real place of expression and being and living and love, of course. And this changes the game. This changes the game of life. So when you're part of this exercise, there's a little bit to it, but part of it is just listing qualities in your projected partner or in your beloved or in your projected even friend or just people that you want to bring into your life, qualities that you would resonate with in them, that you would be attracted to. And what you'll find is that the vast majority of the time, these qualities are going to be qualities that you either hold within yourself or they are an ideal within you. They are an ideal state or expression of what you would like to be. So I'll give you an example. So I went and did this exercise many years ago, and I had so many different bullet points, and it wasn't because of I'm looking for this perfect partner in any capacity. It was an exercise in creativity, first and foremost. It's an exercise in expression and learning how to gain clarity in here and to come from here and learn, experience, expose yourself. And what is it like and what does it feel like to gain clarity in that space? So I can give you many characteristics. One of them was, I want them to value health and fitness, and I want them to value wellness and their, nutrition and their body and movement and so forth. And I want them to love animals, and the list goes on and on and on. But immediately, just these 2 points alone, they're values that I hold very dear to me. So we want to share similarity with people. Well, this is very important for us as human beings because this is how we bond and we connect. We connect and we bond through similarity. But we grow through difference. Let me repeat that. We initially bond and connect through similarities. Okay, this is why we ask ourselves superficial questions. What do you do? How old are you? Most of the superficiality, which is nothing wrong with superficiality, and most of the physical we can just observe. If we have eyesight, we can just observe. But some of those deeper questions that aren't so deep is because we are wanting to resonate, we are wanting to connect. So we initially connect and bond through familiarity, but we grow and we break through because of difference. Because when we are exposed to, hello Christina, when we are exposed to difference, pardon the noise, when we're exposed to difference, our ideals, beliefs, models of reality, everything we think and know that we are, perceived to be, gets turned upside down. Now, as it gets turned upside down, as we move through a disequilibrated state, as we begin to move through disorientation, it's like our internal compass is off. We become scared, generally. We become very scared, and it's imperative here that we move back into the heart. Ask those questions. What would love do and be now? What does the heart desire? What does the heart want? And it's not about getting attached to desires and so forth, but it's asking what does the heart need right now to flourish and expand? Because when we come from that place and realize that difference is something of value, difference is something beautiful. Now, this is I really dislike this in the world, like the prejudice and subjugation and the criticism and the separation and the isolation that occurs because of gender differences or skin colour differences or age differences or sexual orientation differences or sometimes fucking something different. And if there's something different, then the other person's wrong and we are right. And we're looking to always group and categorise ourselves. And this is an extension, but it's a maladaptive extension of what the brain does. It's a maladaptive expression of what the brain naturally does very well, and it should do and it needs to do, which is compartmentalise experiences and patterns in our lives. And the complexity of our social structures and culture has allowed this to just take a new form. And I really dislike this polarisation in our society. But then again, I need to love it. I'm giving myself a teaching while I'm speaking, actually. I need to love it as well, because if I don't love it and I don't embrace it, then I'm polarising and I'm fracturing and I'm just distancing myself further and further from that. But it's something that drives me to be a different person. It's something that disparity and that separation that we experience, the isolation and the desolation, the focus on difference being something negative. It's something that drives why I do what I do at individual and collective levels. So there's value in that as well, and I get that, I feel that. But this difference, if we begin to embrace difference, we actually are embracing the fullness of our own being, or at least the potentiality of that. But feel into that for a moment. Feel into the power of doing so, the power of really being present in that space and being allowed to feel the fullness of who you are, to feel everything that you are or may be or will be. And remember, hello Angela, how are you? And remember that relationships teach us something deeply about ourselves. They are mirrors into the own chasm of our own being. They are mirrors into our differences. They are mirrors into our separation. They are mirrors into our wholeness. They are reflections of who we are in that moment, and in fact who we may need to be and who we have been in the past. It's very important to understand this, and when we're looking at what are we attracted to, the clearer you can be with respect to who you are, the clearer you can be with respect to how you move through the world and what you want, what type of experiences you wish to engage in. And that doesn't mean that you're going to not ever have experiences that are uncomfortable or you don't really want, because they serve a purpose as well. All of life serves a purpose. This is the embracing. This is coming from the heart. This is not leading from the intellect, but leading from the heart. This is the key difference, and it's here that we begin to attract authentic reciprocity in our lives. It's here that we begin to attract meaning, fulfillment, connection, and ultimately belongingness, a sense of belongingness, which lays the foundation for happiness. I did a post the other day on happiness. It's how do we attain happiness in our own lives, in the wholeness of who we are, and in our relationships. And it commences with clarity in self, clarity in purpose, clarity in being, clarity in the way we move through the world. Just clarity, lots and lots of clarity as a starting point. And then aligning, making a conscious decision, a very aware, deliberate decision. Because when we move with a deliberate intent in life, our life is shaped the way that we intend it to be shaped. If we don't move with an intention, we are thrown by life and life shapes us. We're out of control, we're disempowered. Who wants that? Hands up who enjoys and loves being empowered. You give me a wave, give me an emoticon if you love being empowered. And this is so important to understand, because I really doubt anyone's going to put a hand up if I said, put a hand up, give me an emoticon if you love being disempowered. Now, there's nothing wrong with being disempowered, per se. It's not nice, it's very unpleasant. But there are also teachings in that. There are teachings in being disempowered. When we are subjugated against and ostracized and prejudiced against and abused and traumatized by others, that's fucking not okay. It's definitely not okay, and it's definitely not healthy. Yes, we may learn something from it and we can grow from it, but it's not healthy and it's not nice in any capacity, and it's not needed. But when we go back to this empowerment, this sense of self, this understanding self, like it becomes imperative that we choose to empower who we are and who we wish to be. And this sense of happiness comes from that clarity, this sense of happiness. So everybody wishes to be happy. Again, give me a wave, give me an emoticon if you love being happy. Participate. Do yourself a favor and participate, because the way your brain functions in relation to these questions that I'm asking, and when you react or respond to the question by taking action, pressing a couple of buttons on your phone or on your computer or wherever you are, you're reinforcing a point. You're reinforcing a point that you ultimately agree with and that resonates with you. And you physically manifest that harder and higher into your psyche, into your consciousness. When I say physically manifest, you create or laden that concept or that structure with greater meaning. And that becomes important, because what we're doing is when we are acknowledging, very important, when we are acknowledging our experiences for what they are, guess what's happening? We're fortifying the value of those experiences. So when I ask you to give me an emoticon, raise a hand, say something, there's science behind that. There's an intrigue behind that, and there's a fortification behind that will really assist you in understanding everything that you're experiencing from a varied vantage point, a varied perspective. And life is about perspective. Yeah, I mean, that's something that I teach deeply. Is how can we gain a broader and deeper perspective in life, as opposed to a narrow perspective in life that limits us, that places us in a box, places us in a category that maybe we don't need to be in that category. Maybe we have a capacity to be someone else. We have a capacity to feel differently, to be differently, and to attract people and individuals in our lives, circumstances that truly resonate deeply, and that resonate with who we are. And that's an ever evolving process. That's another thing that we have to really accept and embrace, is accept and embrace that life is an ever evolving process, an ever evolving journey. Beautiful people, thank you so much for being here. I want you to please share this video if you resonate with it. If this video makes sense to you, if there is something here that aligns with you, share the video, please. Comment, ask questions, and I'll do my best to get to them after, of course. I want to wish you many blessings on your journey, many blessings in conscious attraction. Conscious attraction. How can you consciously attract those that matter to you in your life? And just know that none of us are perfect, yet all of us are perfect. And it's not about acting in perfection. It's about having a willingness to be open to growing from who we are and who we've been and where we wish to go. I know in my own experiences, my own personal experiences, I've been out of integrity many times. I've lost my way, lost myself, have lived and come from fear. And I can't physically change the past, but I can change my relationship to the past, and I can alter and transmute the person that I am today in greater alignment with who I truly wish to be. And that's a choice that we all have. We all have that choice. So once again, many blessings on your journey. I'll see you again soon in the next live feed. And of course on social media. Once again, share if this resonates with you. Have a beautiful day, and I'll speak to you very soon.